Alright everyone, now it's time to clank on the Young Turks. Now the clankers have done this before, like remember the 2018 midterm live stream when there were like literally thousands of people there posting the spoon emoji and Cenk had a meltdown and nobody knew what was going on and they couldn't even ban them fast enough. And remember Cenk quit early actually because sour grapes because he was expecting a blue wave. And instead there was like a blue puddle. Well, now he's gotten into it with Jimmy Dore, and apparently Anna Kasparian is actually doing the drama thing with him because she used to, I guess, work for him in the newsroom. And at one point, and he admits to this, he made some sort of joke where she had like a mini skirt on and bent over and was like revealing herself to other people essentially, which I can believe. And he made some sort of a joke about it, and then he apologized. Apparently years and years later now, of course, here's the grift. Years later, all of a sudden it becomes a problem because of some, I guess, dust up between him and Cenk. And by the way, I'm not a Jimmy Dore fan. I'm not saying I like the dude. He's still a liberal, but he's like a Mar liberal, like occasionally sane. Like a broken clock liberal, you could call him. Whereas Cenk is just completely nuts. And Kasparian is the most shrill, unlikable person in all of news, so-called. Also, the Young Turks are a priority channel that gets, like, foisted upon the Clankers and the Salty Army and the Razor Force and everyone else. If you're looking up news, eventually, it's like you play 3 steps of removal from the fucking Young Turks. You can be watching anything under the sun. You open a Drudge article, that leads you, a Breitbart article, that leads you to the Blaze, and then the Young Turks. You watch a Styx Hexenhammer video, then you end up watching a Malnu, or you would if he wasn't banned, and then the Young Turks show up, and like Cenk is meeting with Susan Wojcicki and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of people have an axe to grind with the Young Turks. I also find it funny that despite their absolutely massive subscriber base, their actual view count per video, especially for live events, is sub-mediocre. Like Jimmy Dore has, like, what, 1/6 their subscriber count and yet gets twice as many people on the live streams. I think my live stream audience is competitive with that of the Young Turks, some of their larger events. That's called botting. That's called what happens when a priority channel is getting pumped full of people that don't really give a fuck about it. Anyway, Jimmy has humiliated them completely. Link in the description. Which, normally I wouldn't, like, share out his material because I'm not going to agree with him on 9/10 of issues. But anyone that completely obliterates the Young Turks is certainly, at least for that, is a friend indeed. Cenk deserves to get egg on his face. And he pointed out, like, initially, and this is true, years and years ago, the Young Turks basically cast themselves, it was almost like the Man Show sort of stuff. It was like the latter-day Gen X, early wave internet stuff. And so it was deliberately designed to be edgy. It was the stuff your parents didn't watch. It was college humor stuff. It was like Tosh.0 material. It was the stuff that college kids and like the 18 to 25 demographic paid attention to. Salon sort of, I believe, got its start in a similar manner. But over time, as they became more corporatized and Cenk became more and more wealthy, and the people that organized it got more and more sponsors, they cleaned up their act, and we've seen this goddamn a million times. You have some talented group or talented individual that initially is fun to watch, it's kind of edgy, it's kind of a hip happening thing. Within 10 years, it's boomerism. Facebook's like this. Basically, Cenk is basically like Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm sure that other than, the obesity factor and the genocide denial, basically the same. Facebook, when it's first incepted, when it starts taking people, initially, I think it was 2007 or so, everyone started being able to sign up. Before that, it was just basically for university students. Everyone gets to sign up. Initially, it's all the young people. It's kids and teens and people in their 20s and 30s and stuff. It's the younger demographics primarily because they're the ones at the time, mid-2000s, that primarily are doing the internet thing. And then some middle-aged people too, but there weren't elderly people on Facebook. If they did, it was a meme. Now your mom's on Facebook and you're probably not. The only service that you probably use if you're a smartphone user is the messaging system, really. The idea of the old wave social media profile system, or even like the news feed and shit, compared to Twitter, it's primitive. Compared to new tech, it's highly censorious. Compared to YouTube, it doesn't have as much on there. Nobody really gives a fucking shit. Cenk, though, he gets humiliated, in part because, their demographics are collapsing because they've alienated everyone by taking, again, initially edgy humor, and over the course of not that long a time, turning it into basically Tom Brokaw. Basically what it's become. The only edginess there is that Cenk occasionally will swear, and Ana Kasparian will occasionally echo like Elon Omar or something like that and berate someone, and that's basically the goddamn show. All other content there is just them spouting off frenetic and usually incoherent opinions that 9/10 of the time are goddamn wrong. And also, I think there might be something else behind it, which is that, again, Jimmy Dore, being like a Mar liberal, they have a sense of strategy. That is, that they have certain left-leaning beliefs, but they understand the concept of actually attempting to win to actually put those beliefs forward. So the concept of negotiation, a la like a Manchin, isn't an entirely foreign concept. The idea of taxing a wealth tax is something they would oppose because they understand, hey, economically it just wouldn't work. Cenk and people like that, if they fall into two categories. Those that genuinely believe these are good ideas, which is to say they don't understand strategy, economics, or anything. And those like Cenk, I believe, who are just grifters. They basically are just pandering to the lowest common denominator of the far left. And the funny thing is, Cenk will get his day in which the hashtag #MeToo stuff he's trying to push off on Jimmy Dore comes home to roost. Let's not forget his sexist blog post from back in the 2000s, where he was talking about, I guess, well-endowed women or some shit like that, and all the weird shit he and Kasparian have said throughout time with regards to different groups of people. A lot of them, in retrospect, would be considered bigoted. And as it was pointed out, they've scrubbed a lot of the stuff that they put on years ago. It's gone. It's no longer there. Howard Stern has done this. Have you noticed that? Howard Stern has gone mainstream at this point. All the stuff from like the 90s, there used to be a massive archive on YouTube. It was like something like 50 different like 4 or 5 hour segments of radio. And it was some of the most fun radio ever made, by the way, through the 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, basically. Even some of the 2010 stuff, very funny. But it's all gone. It's not on YouTube anymore. Some of these videos had hundreds of thousands, millions of views. If anything, all you have to do is have a link to Sirius, and you're feeding your service. You're making huge amounts of money. That's free advertising for Howard Stern. But he decided he wanted to be able to interview Ellen DeGeneres or LeBron James, and so he couldn't do that anymore. So, I mean, it's basically the same fucking shit, and it makes it basically less talented, less funny. I'm sure the work environment's not as fun either, although working with Cenk even in his heyday couldn't have been that great a job. He'd probably try to eat you. So I like this. The Leftoids at the Young Turks getting utterly ass-blasted and humiliated and ratioed on their own content. And it's funny because that happens. All their smaller shows, the clankers can rate it and totally ratio it to hell. And it was funny doing that several times, to the point where they've literally muted me on their channel. Did you know that? I can't make a normal comment on the Young Turks material anymore. I wondered why nobody was ever responding to the comments, so I asked people on Minds, hey, can you see this comment that I just left? Nope, it's disappeared. I can see it, nobody else can. They fear the clank. Apparently they fear Jimmy Dore too, which is hysterical. That's about all. Peace out.